I reviewed all 200 plus dex entries for every new Gen 9 Pokemon plus other materials to find out who the strongest Pokemon in the Paldea region really are. The results may or may not shock you. Good morning everybody, good morning, and welcome back to another video, our first of 2023. It's my 13th year of doing this, so pardon me if my channel becomes a little angsty this year. But anyhow, we did a lot of Pokemon power scaling in 2022, and now that Scarlet and Violet has been out for nearly 2 months, I think it's time that we do the same with the Paldean Pokemon. But before that, today's video is sponsored by me! That's right, I dropped some new merch designs over the holidays, including t-shirts, mugs, and stickers, and everything is at its cheapest price right now. So be sure to check it out on my Teespring page using the link down below. But let's go ahead and get started with the most powerful Pokemon. And what better place to start off with than with the starters? Unfortunately, Quaquaval's dex entries don't tell us much about its power level, and although Meowscarada is said to launch pollen-packed flower bombs at its opponents, it's not said exactly how strong the blasts are. But since Flower Trick is a 70 base power move that always crits, it technically sits at a nice base power of 105. Just a bit more powerful than the likes of Earthquake or Spatial Rend. But it's really hard to use move power when power scaling because that means that pretty much every Pokemon that can use a move over 100 base power can do more damage than Palkia literally ripping through space. So, sorry Meowscarada, we can't use this as evidence. However, when it comes to true firepower, Skeledirge doesn't hold back. According to its Violet dex entry, it scorches its foes with flames that can reach 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit or 3,000 degrees Celsius. This ties Skeledirge with the legendary Chi-Yu for the Pokemon that produces the hottest flames in Paldea. In real life, these flames would match the temperature of the hottest blue flames and would be capable of melting almost any metal on Earth. For reference, Magmortar, who we crowned as the strongest non-legendary Pokemon in Sinnoh, could only produce flames up to 2,000 degrees Celsius. So Skeledirge and Chi-Yu have flames 50% hotter. And while not the strongest fire type in the region, Charcadet's flames can reach 1,000 degrees Celsius, which is still pretty impressive for a little guy like this. News like that might make the grass-type trainers of this region sweat a little bit, but fear not, Brassius, because Arboliva is no slouch either. According to Pokemon Violet's dex, Arboliva can launch its oil at foes with enough force to smash a boulder. In the grand scale of Pokemon power scaling, this may not sound that impressive, but keep in mind this is a liquid force destroying a solid target, which simply means do not take your Arboliva bowling anytime soon. There might not be anything left when it's done. Unfortunately, I can't just Google how much force is needed for oil to break a boulder. Actually. Okay, yeah, I was right. That's way too specific for anybody to actually know. But if there are any reincarnations of Albert Einstein watching this video, maybe you can leave it in the comments. But just know that it's probably a lot. Of course, one Pokemon that absolutely everybody is loving for its ludicrous power, or probably because of what it chooses to do with that power, is Tinkaton. Now before we get to its funnier dex entry, let's start with the one we get from Violet, which tells us that Tinkaton's hammer weighs a staggering 220 pounds, or 100 kilograms. According to the PokeDex, Tinkaton's weight is 248 pounds. But seeing as how Tinkaton isn't any bigger than Tinkatuff is, but it is remarkably heavier, I'm assuming that number is including the weight of the hammer, which means that the actual weight of Tinkaton's body is a measly 28 pounds or 12 kilograms. This means that the hammer Tinkaton holds is nearly 8 times its body weight. To put that in perspective, if Tinkaton were the size of an average 200-pound man, it would likely shatter the world record for heaviest deadlift, with only 75 base attack. Huh. Well, I'm guessing Tinkaton never had an Uncle Ben to give it the great power speech, because instead of using his powers for good, it instead knocks Corviknight out of the sky by smacking giant rocks at them. According to Corviknight's Scarlet dex entry, this led to the entire Corviknight taxi service being discontinued. So not only is Pokemon one of Paldea's strongest, but is also the incarnation of chaotic evil energy. But where there's a villain, there must also be a hero. And luckily, Palafin is here to save the day. According to both of its dex entries, not only can this Pokemon swim at a speed of 50 knots, the average speed of a high-performance motorboat, but it can also lift a cruise ship with only one fin. In case you're wondering how much that is, it's usually around 200,000 gross tonnage. I don't even know what that means, but it sure sounds like a lot. And for sure, it surpasses the strength exuded by Tinkaton, easily making Palafin this region's strongest Pokemon, at least when it comes to physical strength. So if you're ever riding in a Corviknight taxi, at least know that if you get gunned down over the sea by a rogue Tinkaton, there's a good chance that you can still be safe. Another Pokemon with a hilarious amount of power at its disposal is the long-awaited Dunsparce. Being able to drill through 6 miles of bedrock is an impressive enough accomplishment, but perhaps even more impressive is the method by which it protects its nest. According to the PokeDex, its lungs are powerful enough to inhale all of the oxygen in the hull and release it as a blast to drive out intruders. Oh man, the Dunsparce, it has come to my attention that there are intruders here right now. People who aren't subscribed even though they're enjoying the content. So if you don't want to get butt blasted by the Dunsparce, you better run down there and hit that big red button. I'll give you to the count of 10. 1, 2, 10. But the Dunsparce is far from being the most powerful cross-gen evolution Pokemon. Who else could have that honor but Annihilape? According to Pokemon Scarlet, Annihilape is the result of Primeape's anger rising above the critical point, causing it to gain power beyond the physical limits of its body. It's throwing punches with a force that is literally out of this world, which maybe could make it stronger than Palafin, but there's no way of actually knowing. And I know I said earlier that move power is hard to use as actual evidence, but Annihilape's Rage Fist is in a tier of its own. Gaining 50 base power every time it's hit, Rage Fist caps at a monumental base power of 350. Oh yeah, and it's stab, so realistically 525. But what if I told you that power is only a drop in the bucket compared to the actual strongest move of all time, Houndstone's Last Respects? Like Rage Fist, Last Respects also increases in power by 50 every time an ally faints. Most people believe this means that the move caps at 300 power when 5 allies have fallen. But actually, reviving your Pokemon in battle and having them faint again will further increase the base power. So Last Respect's true power cap is 5,050. Or whenever your allies have fainted 100 times in one battle. That's a lot of money spent on revives. With Stab, that's a move with 7,575 base power. Or you getting hit by Explosion 30 times. Take your pick. Either way, Houndstone is visiting your funeral next. But even if you manage to escape, Greavard already did his part by draining your life force away, so it won't be much longer. But of course, Greavard couldn't be the only classic ghost type that casually slowly kills people. In this case, ironically, it's actually one of the weakest ghost types in existence, Gimmighoul. Both its chest form and roaming form are said to survive by draining the life forces of people who touch its coins. Okay guys, come on, the ghost type video was last week, everybody knows how good you are now, you don't have to keep showing off. Now naturally, you might expect the Paradox Pokemon from the distant past and future to possess extreme powers as well. But unfortunately, most of the dex entries for these guys reveal little about their true powers. But thankfully, the magazine A Culture in the Academy Library sheds a bit more light on them. But for the most ferocious of the Paradox Pokemon, the information is actually held within Area Zero itself. Of course, I'm talking about Great Tusk and Iron Treads. Of course, these Pokemon both have confirmed body counts, which is rare for anything that isn't a ghost type. While Great Tusk is simply described as being incredibly ferocious, Iron Treads gives us a little more insight, as it apparently rolls so fast that it can scorch the earth. But of course, there's one Paradox Pokemon who is even more shocking: Iron Thorns. Because apparently it's actually a rather peaceful Pokemon that prefers not to fight. Huh. Never judge a book by its cover, I suppose. Alright, so what about the other Paradox Pokemon based on a pseudo-legendary? That, of course, being Roaring Moon. According to A Culture, Roaring Moon is a much more savage Pokemon than Salamence, and it presumably has a connection with Mega Salamence as well. Which is why it's funny to me that Roaring Moon actually has the lowest base stat total of the three, but hey, this is canonical strength we're talking about, pitch those stats out the window! So if Roaring Moon really does possess the same primal energy as Mega Evolution, it certainly has to be one of this generation's strongest Paradox Pokemon. Which also leads me to Iron Valiant, one of the more interesting Paradox forms. Iron Valiant is unique in that it actually draws inspiration from both Gardevoir and Gallade. And similar to Roaring Moon, it appears to take design elements from their Mega Evolutions as well. What I find most intriguing about Iron Valiant, though, is the magazine at the Academy stating that it was designed by a mad scientist to be the world's strongest Psychic-type Pokemon. But it ended up becoming a Fairy Fighting type instead. This guy was doing that Gen 1 coding a billion years in the future, how do you mess up that badly? And lastly, let's discuss the legendaries. Despite Koraidon and Miraidon being the legendaries we spend the most time with, not a ton of info is given to us about how strong they really are. The best we have are vague Pokedex entries about how Miraidon can scorch the earth with its lightning, and how Koraidon splits the ground with its fists. But how much earth and how deep in the ground are we talking here? In a way, these dex entries sort of match up with Zekrom and Reshiram's, but since they seem to lack the incredible powerful attacks or way for them to preserve their life forces, I mean, Koraidon presumably went extinct, so I'd say these guys are probably a little less powerful than they are. which kinda tracks given that their base stat totals are 670, again, a little less than your average box legendaries. But this is also the same base stat total as Groudon and Kyogre, who I ranked way higher, so you can't put too much stock in that. Anyway, go watch the original legendary Pokemon power scaling video if you haven't. I don't want to sit here and reiterate the entire thing. As for the Treasures of Ruin, Wo-Chien causes forests to wither and die when it's in the area. Yeah, big deal, he's a slug, he's not going far. Chien-Pao is said to control over 100 tons of snow. Impressive for sure, but that also means that he's presumably powerless in areas that don't have snow. Good luck down in Florida, my man. We already discussed Chi-Yu at the beginning of this video. Yeah, it's hot. But probably the one with the most instantly destructive power is actually Ting-Lu. By crashing its heavy head into the ground, it can create fissures 160 feet deep, or about 50 meters. That much destruction to the Earth's crust could certainly cause a large-scale earthquake that would topple entire kingdoms. So I'm personally giving my vote to Ting-Lu as the strongest legendary so far. And speaking of the strongest Pokemon, I'd like to give a shout out to my strongest soldiers, my channel members. Because it's January, and ad revenue is really low right now. So if you got a few extra bucks lying around and feel like supporting the channel, that would be really appreciated. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll see you guys next time.